Hey, how you guys doing? All right, so let's get into it. Today, we're going to be talking about this. Hopefully you can make it out. And yes, it is Northern Africa. Yes, you see the Red Sea and Egypt and a bunch of other markers. But I'm wondering if you know what this is. In the middle, you'll see a big long river. It's called the Nile, not just a river in Egypt. Okay, that was a whole lot of work for that little one joke, but now you know what we're talking about. We're talking about the Nile. Don't even notice I am lying. Denial is the enemy of every counselor, therapist, clinician, case manager, probation officer, parole officer, psychologist, psychiatrist, anyone who is trying to help you mentally and emotionally, trying to shift the way you see things, the way you think, your feeling process, etc. It is the enemy of all those people because basically it keeps you stuck. It prevents this new acceptance. Denial. I had a client, and his name was, let's call him Ken, and he was executive for a really big cracker company like Nabisco, and he had enough money that he was allowed to sink to very far depths because no one in his inner circle would tell him he was wrong. No one in his inner circle was going to go out of their way to put their job in jeopardy by letting him know what was going on and what they could observe in his behavior, his thinking, etc. So he got really bad. By the time he came to this facility that I worked at, one, he had medical records about this thick. And basically what the medical records said was, if he drinks one more time, he's going to die. Not by and by, immediately. Like his kidney was going to fail if one more ounce of alcohol entered his system. All right, that's from a doctor. Two, he had family members. He had daughters and sons who were old enough to have their own children. And his children said, Dad, if you don't do what this place tells you to do in the manner in which they tell you to do it for as long as they tell you to do it, we're never going to talk to you again. You're never going to see your grandchildren again. Matter of fact, we won't associate with anyone who does associate with you. Pretty crystal clear. All right? A potential excommunication. All right? Three, he had 5 DUIs in one day. You would think it's impossible, but apparently it's not. It did include him driving through counties and the police letting him out of the drunk tank because they were honestly afraid and didn't want to handle a person like him, and they thought he was going to seize up in the cell. So he acquired 5 DUIs in the span of one day's time. He started the day off with one and acquired the 4 others. He was jaundiced. Now, jaundice means you're about as yellow as this, and your eyes are about as red as this. It's the toxins backing up into your own system, okay? His skin was the consistency of wet paper towel. You felt like if you ran your finger too hard against his hand, you could break skin, probably could. He was wet brain, organic, okay? Meaning alcohol had done some serious mental damage to his brain, and he had bobblehead and a stupid smile on his face. Amidst all this, probably more than obvious information, he was in denial. He could not see the reason why any of this was going on. In one of his group process groups, and he was a very kind person, he understood why you need to be here. And he was more than willing to help you, but for the life of him, he couldn't understand why he needed this. And the length of stay, I think, was around 30 days, preferably more. He left at some obscure odd number like 11 days, and he drank again, and unfortunately he did pass away. I mean, how do you think that story is going to end? Point is, denial. Now, denial isn't some crazy monster created by the devil to plague you. Actually, it's one of the greatest evidences that the universe is merciful. Let's say I took a chainsaw and I sawed through your leg right now. Well, you would experience a great amount of pain, obviously. But there'd be a limit to that pain. The universe would basically say there's only so much pain I will allow a human being to register based on this, that, and the other. And eventually you would pass out, you'd black out, you'd go into shock, you'd slip into a coma. You would experience no more active pain. And as you were coming out of the coma in the hospital, and as I was sitting in prison, as I should be, you would experience more pain. The pain would get so great that either again you would slip into a coma or you would get better. And that would happen until you either got better or passed away. Same thing for emotional pain. There's a certain limit that the universe, your brain, will not allow you to accept. If you're 6 years old and your dog eats your little brother and your uncle molests your mom and your whole family blows up at a plane, you're not going to register that. That is too much pain for one human being to register, to grasp. Okay? It's going to be pushed into the back of your brain. Now, it'll come out through disorders, imbalances, behaviors, psychological issues. It'll come through PTSD and depression and nightmares and certain limits and limitations. But it won't allow you to grasp those things until you're able to handle them. When I got better, I could only grasp a certain amount of information. If I had a 19-year clean and sober, I've worked on my issues, acceptance of what was going on, my first day, I wouldn't have the motivation to make it to the second. I would not have survived. It's literally a survival technique. It is a psychological survival technique. Okay? If you've ever worked with anyone or had anyone in your family who had dementia or Alzheimer's, you'll know that they might think it's 1950. When really it's 2020. They might believe that you're their grandson instead of knowing that you're their, they might think you're your son, not knowing that you're their grandson. All right, they'll have a mix-up of that. Now, here's the key. No matter what the delusion is, they're never really happy about it. They're not happy in 1950. There's always a problem in 1950. That's because psychologically, something in their very core lets them know that something's wrong. Now, the wrong might not be, it's not 1950, it's 2020 to them. It might just be, it might come through that something's wrong or you're doing something wrong or something about the area is wrong. Psychologically, you do have a compass, and that compass is saying something's not right. Now, usually if you were right there in front of me, I would do a little exercise. I would have you guys break out into groups. Okay? And if you're seeing this video for the first time, you might not know me, but I would ask the first group to come up with a fact about me. The second group to come up with a fact about me. The third group to come up with a fact about me. An undeniable fact. First group would come up with something about my appearance. The second group would come up with something about my personality. The third group would come up with something about my history. And I'd give you some time to come up with this undeniable fact. Oh, Susan. All right, that's enough time. So, first group. First group says something about my appearance. I'm wearing a suit. They might say, you're dressed well. They might say, you're black. And I would say, dress well? You mean I'm dressing to impress you? That means I have to impress you? You're trying to say I feel less about myself and I'm trying to impress you? I'm black? You mean like the color? No, I'm African American. All right, why would you call me black? You know, I'm not black. Or you're trying to say that I don't dress well enough for... And then I'd ask them to pass. I go to the second group, and they would say personality. You're friendly. you're nice. And I go, or they'd say, you're funny. And I'd say, funny? You mean funny like a clown? You mean I'm here to amuse you? You mean I do a little dance to amuse you? And then I go on counterattack. And I go, well, maybe you're funny. Maybe I didn't ask you to insult me. I just asked you to come up with a fact about me. I don't understand why you would have to assault me. And I'd get pissed. And then I'd ask them to pass. Then I'd go to the third group. And I'd say, come up with something about my history. And they'd say, you used to live in New York. And I'd say, no, I didn't. Now, obviously, I'm not just being a jerk. I'm in denial. Okay? And there's a lot of different techniques to avoid acceptance in denial. One of those techniques I did on the first group. Basically, whatever they said, I would turn it into something they didn't say and then point at it. Politicians do that all the time. It's a pivoting technique, also known as a straw man. If you say pond, I'll make what you said sound like lake, and then I'll point at it and point out how incorrect it is, because it's actually not a lake. But you let me change what you said, truthfully, a pond, into a lake, and then now you're wrong. Basically, I'm wrong and you agreed with me. Come along this wrong trip with me, and then I'll say, where the hell are we? And why'd you take us here? The second group, basically, I would take offense to what they said and then go on counterattack. Now, all of a sudden, you're defending your position instead of me defending my position. Instead of me accepting the fact that you're bringing to me, you're now defending yourself. That literally assures that you have to be picture perfect, without blemish, without flaw, for you to even bring one little factoid about me to my attention. Well, who's perfect? Nobody. So what will I accept? Nothing. The third technique is just really honestly the simplest one. I just snap my fingers and outright lie. You're from New York? No, I'm not. Prove it. Well, obviously you can't, and if you could, that'd take some time, and you're not going to spend that amount of time or that money to prove to me a fact that you want me to accept about me. So I've won. And I lose for winning. My question is, how do you get somebody out of denial who's in denial? And the answer is, you don't. Short of an act of God, someone in denial will not come out of denial. It will not be presentation of facts. It will not be logic. It will not be rationality. It won't be literally showing you. It won't be even previous things you've said. If you're in denial, you're going to stay in denial until you are able to come out of denial. Now, I can support your acceptance. I can encourage your acceptance, but I cannot make it. It won't happen without you. Okay? Now, there's stages to denial. Early, middle, and late. Let's say the issue is drugs. Early denial is few observable problems. Okay? No one is going to sign up for a 90-day treatment center because they smoked a joint and lost their homework. Or because maybe they were late to work. Or because they forgot a phone number. Or any slew of those small observable problems, all right? The people around them who maybe don't have a problem or they don't recognize as having a problem are experiencing the same things. So there's strength in numbers. That sets the scene for the middle stage of denial, which is there are now more observable problems, but they're not related to drugs or alcohol, all right? They have nothing to do with marijuana. They have nothing to do with the drug that they're consuming, all right? They got fired for another reason. Okay, the cops were picking on them. The doctor's a quack. All these issues have nothing to do with marijuana. Yes, I was smoking pot and I got fired, but I didn't get fired because of marijuana. I got fired for other reasons. Don't you talk bad about marijuana. Yes, I'm having issues with my friends or family, but that's not because of the cocaine I was snorting. We had issues for other reasons. Don't you dare blame cocaine for this. And that, of course, sets the scene for the late stage of denial. Late stage of denial, basically, you're too sick to think clearly. There are now more observable problems, and they are obviously related to drugs or alcohol. like an abscess or an OD or a drug possession charge or DUI. But now that there are lots of problems and they are obviously related to drugs and alcohol, self-defined, I just can't accept it because I'm too sick. And believe you me, you don't have to be an old man in a trench coat behind a dumpster to be too sick to think rationally. You can be a 18-year-old cheerleader. You can be a 20-year-old lawyer. You can be very successful in other areas of your life, successful in quotations, but you're too sick to think and address this issue clearly. Too attached. Now, there are many different types of denial, mainly 6. The first type, and I'm going to read to you since you don't have a handout there in your hand. Denial of fact. In this form of denial, someone avoids a fact by lying. The lying can take the form of an outright falsehood, commission, leaving out certain details to tailor a story, omission, or by falsely agreeing to something, assent, also referred to as yesing behavior. Someone who is in denial of fact typically uses lies to avoid the fact that they think, avoid facts they think may be painful to themselves or others. So remember that denial is a mechanism to avoid pain. So I actually used one of those techniques on that group. Actually, I used a couple of them. Commission, just outright lie. You were there at 5 o'clock? No, I wasn't. You're from New York? No, I'm not. You called yourself black yesterday? No, I didn't. You're a recovering addict alcoholic? No, I'm not. Just snap your fingers and outright lie. Tell an untruth. The second one is a little more complicated. Omission. Tailoring a story, leaving out obviously relevant details. Or details that you might think are irrelevant, but obviously are. Paxton, did you do cocaine today? No, I didn't. Now, that might be true, but I'm leaving out the fact that I did it yesterday. I planned on doing it today, I just couldn't find it, so I did something else. And I have every intention in the world of doing it tomorrow. But the truth is, no, I didn't. Now, I'm obviously in denial. If someone says, you did cocaine today and you said you didn't, when really you just did meth, you really think they didn't, you really think they were making the distinction between cocaine and meth? That's just a game. That's bullshit. Okay? Leaving out certain elements. Today, well, when did today start? Are we talking about past midnight? Are we talking about earlier this morning? Are we talking about just a minute ago? Are we talking about you did it right now as we speak? So you're leaving out certain details. I plan on doing it as soon as we end this conversation. You think that's relevant to you saying you're doing it, or are you doing it? So that is denial of fact. If I am talking to you while you're in a facility, a treatment center, a one-on-one session or a lecture, and you're still in denial of fact, man, you are screwed proper. You're in trouble, all right? By now, if you're even listening to this, you should probably be out of denial of fact. Denial of fact should prevent you from even finding this video on YouTube or email or however you're listening to it, okay? You should have already moved past outright lying, leaving out parts of the story, and the last part is assent. That's yesing. It's called over the top. It's a version of the straw man, but it's a little more passive. Okay? Paxton, you're smoking too much pot. Fine, that's all I do all day long, smoke pot. That's why I'm made of pot. I'm doing pot right now. Fine, I'm just the biggest pothead ever. Yeah, that or what I said, which is you're smoking too much pot. So yesing is going over the top, overly identifying, and probably with a little bit of passive aggression, that you're typed on a piece of paper in red, you would be saying yes, but there's absolutely nothing in your demeanor, your display, your effect that actually lets the other person even guess to think that you are actually in acceptance. All right? It's a way of denying with a smile or with a grimace, but it's not acceptance. Yeah. Well, I said yeah. Well, yeah, you didn't say yes. You said yeah. Now, sure, kind of, sort of, maybe. Those are all versions of the ways to perpetuate that, okay? They're not clear yes or no's. They're not yes, you are correct. Just as simple as commission was no, you're not. Now, the second is the one I find most often. When I'm trying to help somebody out, the second type of denial is more common, and that is denial of responsibility. Here, you are not denying the fact, but the fact is not your fault. Denial of responsibility. This form of denial involves avoiding personal responsibility by blaming, minimizing, or justifying. Blaming is a direct statement, shifting culpability, and may overlap with denial of fact. They build on each other. Minimization is an attempt to make the effect or the results of an action appear less harmful than they actually may be. And justifying is when someone takes a choice and attempts to make that choice look okay due to the perception of what is right in a situation. Someone using denial of responsibility is usually attempting to avoid potential harm or pain by shifting attention away from themselves. Again, hear that? Avoiding pain. So, denial of responsibility. Minimizing. If you are using the most low impact potential hypothetical outcome of your behavior, you are minimizing it because you're avoiding, of course, what it could have done. I mean, yeah, I shot you, but I only shot you in your toe. Well, what if you would have shot me in my artery? You're minimizing it. Yes, officer, I only had one drink. Now, I'm going to fail to mention it was a tumbler, but yes, it was only one drink. You're minimizing it. I go to a AA group, and I've done it myself, so I know what it is. If anyone even jokes about the way they drove drunk, they are minimizing the fact that they could have ran over their neighbor's kid on a tricycle in a blackout. And it's but the grace of the universe, the grace of God, that they didn't. It's not their skill in driving. It isn't the fact that they were clean and sober. It's literally, it was out of their control, and they are benefiting from the outcome being positive. Oh, I had to drink with one eye closed. That was so funny. It's funny until it's not. That's minimization. Okay? I only kicked you. Well, what do you mean only? When you hear only in there, or just, that is a clear red flag that person is minimizing. Now, blame. You can blame other people. You can blame places. You can blame unchangeable situations in life. You can blame health conditions. After a certain point, even traumatic experiences or trauma can be blamed. Because basically what I'm saying is, unless you can go back in time like Doctor Who in your little phone booth and change it, then that's the reason why. And since you can't do that, that's the reason why no change for me, because you can't change the past. Blaming a person. Well, it's the bartender. He shouldn't have given me another drink. Oh, so it's the bartender's fault. The doctor, well, they prescribed it. Oh, so it's the doctor's fault. So maybe you should go home and the doctor should come in the office and talk to me. Apparently your bartender needs to go into treatment and not you, because since it is your bartender's fault, we need to work on that guy. Sometimes you can blame whole situations. A lot of people put society to blame. So that basically means you have to fix every ill in society before I will fix my behavior. And since you can't, I guess I won't. Here, go fix society. Let me know. Let me know when you fix that, and then I'll work on my issue. Fix it yet? Of course not. So, the last one in denial of responsibility is justification. Now, what word do you hear in justification? Justice. What is justice? What is right? So basically, I'm telling you, it's right for me. I have the right to do this. If you felt the way I felt, then you would have done what I had done, and you'd be okay with me doing what I did. Justification. I have sleeping problems. That's why I shoot heroin and eat Ambien before I go to sleep. You would too if you had sleep problems. I have a problem waking up. That's why I smoke crack in the morning. I have a back pain. That's why I got drunk. I was really hungry. That's why I stole your bread. Whatever reasoning for doing so. You're basically pleading your case in the court of law of you not changing. Where's your lawyer? Probably your lawyer is devil's advocacy. Get it? The advocate of the devil, devil's advocacy, lawyer? Okay. Next is denial of impact. Denial of impact involves a person avoiding thinking about or understanding the harm his or her behavior has caused to self or others. Doing this enables a person to avoid feelings of a sense of guilt. Again, hear that? Avoiding pain, a sense of guilt, and can prevent him or her from developing remorse or empathy for others. Denial of impact reduces or eliminates the sense of pain or harm from poor decisions. So basically, denial of impact is, yes, it's true, but it didn't really impact you. I'm only hurting me. It's my life. I'll do what I want. So what? I punched you in the nose. Look at how you're bleeding. You're bleeding incorrectly. When I punch people in the nose, they're only supposed to bleed out of their left nostril, not their right. You got it all wrong. You're experiencing pain in the wrong way. I'm going to judge your hurt. Denial of impact. When I went into treatment, I went into a treatment facility, all right, because of drug and alcohol addiction, okay? Roughly $20,000 worth of treatment, paid for by my mom, recently widowed mom. And she paid for this treatment, which was basically a $20,000 gift that I said I didn't want, to address the things I did, which actually made her suffer, among other people. So I called this lady up while she's at work. And did I say thank you? No. I went about minimizing the need for the gift, denying the need for the gift, attacking and critiquing the gift. And then on top of that, here's a little cherry. I asked her for stuff. I said this treatment center isn't near the beach, and I don't like the doctor, and these guys are quacks, and they're doing it all wrong. I don't really think I even need this. I think you guys are overreacting. Oh, and by the way, I need some cigarettes. Put some money on my books, and will you bring that t-shirt in my second drawer? Now, if I buy you a t-shirt for Christmas, the last thing I want to know is that you don't need it, for you to critique what color t-shirt it is, and then to ask me for something on top of that. Denial of impact. I can only imagine, because I am not a mother. I can only imagine, because I have not sent any kid to treatment. I can only imagine, because I have never spent $20,000 on anybody who wasn't me. I can only imagine what this woman was thinking, feeling, while I called her at work to throw this shit in her face. Amazing. That is denial of impact. Now, denial of awareness. This type of denial is best discussed by looking at the concept of state-dependent learning. This is a really interesting phrase, and I'll explain it. People using this type of denial will avoid pain and harm by stating they were in a different state of awareness, such as alcohol or drug intoxication, or on occasion, mental health issues. This type of denial often overlaps with denial of responsibility. So denial of responsibility includes blaming, and basically you're blaming a state of mind now. You're not actually blaming a person or a situation, you're blaming a state of mind. You stole $5 out of my wallet. Well, I'm bipolar. Oh, that explains it. Because a symptom of bipolar, manic, depression, erratic behavior, restlessness, and steals $5 out of people's wallets. Because I know about bipolar people who have not stolen $5 out of my wallet, so apparently that's not the reason why. You're blaming a state of mind. I'm an alcoholic. I'm an addict. I have a certain medical condition, and that is the reason for this behavior. It is like blaming another person, except for the person is you. It's like Dr. Jekyll saying, I can't really account for that. You'll have to take that up with Mr. Hyde. Do you want his phone number? I don't know if he'll pick up, though. I'm pretty sure he's unreachable. Yeah, right. Let's go knock on his door. Oh, I guess he's not home. I guess you're not going to get your answers from him. I'll let him know you called, though. That is denial of awareness. Denial of cycle. Denial of cycle is usually the biggest culprit to relapse behavior of any kind, whether you relapse in mental, emotional, or physical addiction, compulsions, obsessions, etc. Many who use this type of denial will say things as, it just happened. It just happened. I don't know what happened. It just happened. Denial cycle is where a person avoids looking at their decisions leading up to an event or does not consider the pattern of decision making and how harmful the behavior is repeated. The pain and the harm being avoided by this type of denial is more of an effort to need to change the focus from a singular event to looking at preceding events. It can also serve as a way to blame or justify behavior. See above. So, denial cycle. You look at this one event and say, I don't know what happened, and you are failing to recognize, not even failing to see, because you probably know, failing to put focus on all the many micro decisions that went into that. I ended up drinking a beer. I don't know what happened. Well, you don't just end up drinking a beer. I mean, you were sitting at home, you checked your wallet, you found where the money was, you went into the change drawer, you got some of that change to add to it to get the exact price, you looked around the house for your car keys, you walked out the door, you locked the door, you walked down the stairs, you got into the car, you turned, you thought to yourself, where is the liquor store? All right, you maybe GPS'd it or looked at your Thomas guide if you're a little bit older, and you got to the liquor store, walked down the aisle, chose which beer you wanted, went up, got the exact change, drove back. There's a whole lot of decisions that went into that one little event. It isn't just, I don't know what happened. I know exactly what the fuck happened. All right? I don't know. I was faithful to my wife, and then all of a sudden I cheated. I don't know what happened. Oh, I know what happened. You waited for her to go on vacation. You looked out the door, made sure she was gone. You found out where the strip club was. You went to the stripper. You found out, and you asked her how many. See, ignoring the micro decisions literally robs you of the one power you have, and that is choice. If you are Superman, you have super strength, you can fly, you have little eye beams, you have super breath. There's many, many, many powers. But if you're a Flash, you only have one power. That is running. So if you give up that one power, that's the only power you have. Now you're just a nobody. Well, the one power you have, the one superpower you have is your minute-to-minute, second-to-second choices. Your decisions, your actions. That is the power you have. And if you surrender that power, you are surrendering the power of speed. And you do not have laser beams or super breath to rely on. There is no flying. You're like Superman acting like he surrendered speed, catching the bus, being late, and now you're late for work and you get fired. Dude, you had so many others. You can fly. What are you doing? Exactly. Denial cycle allows you to be surprised when things just happened. And also, it's the enemy of solution because basically your only alternative, your only preventative measure is to hope it doesn't happen. Well, good luck with that. Denial of denial is the last one. This can be a difficult concept for many people to identify with in themselves, but is a major barrier to changing hurtful behaviors. Denial of denial involves thoughts, actions, and behaviors which bolster confidence that nothing needs to be changed in one's behavior. This form of denial typically overlaps with all the other forms of denial, but involves more self-delusion. Now, you might think denial of denial is that simple, but basically, denial of denial is a lot of people want change, but not a lot of people want to change. So while you are believing you're not in denial and someone is giving you preventative measures and you are shooting them down, yes, you are in denial of denial. You're saying you want different, but you're telling them what it isn't. It's kind of like when I lose my glasses. I misplaced them. Don't know where they are. And I asked someone, dude, have you seen my glasses? And they go, no. And I go, I don't know, I lost them. And they go, have you looked in the couch? And I go, well, they're not there. What do you mean they're not there? I'm pretty sure a defining factor of something being lost is you not knowing where it is. So maybe you should look at the couch. I understand you don't think they're there, but why don't you look there anyway? Because if you knew they were, then they wouldn't be lost and you could put them on. So denial is basically saying, yeah, I got a problem, but that's not the solution. And that's not a solution. I wish I had a solution. Well, have you tried this? Oh, that's not a solution. Shooting down a solution like a maniac Rambo. All right. So denial. What is the solution to denial? The answer is acceptance. Now, you only get good at what you practice. If you practice doing this, you'll get good at doing this. You don't get good at what you want to get good at. You get good at what you practice. And we are attaching, if you practice it, then apparently you want it. Okay? And you don't separate one from the two. All right? If you want to jump out of a plane with no parachute, then you by and by want to hit the ground. Well, I didn't want to hit the ground. I just wanted to jump out of a plane with no parachute. You do realize that jumping out of a plane with no parachute is attached to being 5,000 feet up, which is attached to being 500 feet up, which is attached to being 5 feet up, which is attached to hitting the ground. So let's just skip to the end. Yeah. Acceptance. You get good at what you practice. Well, how do you get good at acceptance? Well, over here, we have a 3rd grade level of acceptance. That is, I could accept it, but I don't want to. Over here, we have a PhD level of acceptance, which is, I need to accept it, but I don't know if I can. Well, you build up momentum from here to here. PhD level acceptance, I accept that my grandma died and I'm not going to drink about it. Over here, 3rd grade level acceptance is someone says, Paxton, wear your tie like this, not like this, or pull up your pants, or please make your bed up. You know, here we have to shave. You know what? At the DMV, you got to get in that line first. And please don't use your cell phone while you're in the building, or whatever that said. I'm thinking, I could accept that, but I don't really think I need to. And I'm going to get good at doing that. And then over here, my grandma dies. I have no rollover acceptance. I don't have a cache of acceptance because I haven't built it. You can only dip into savings that you've actually saved, hence the savings. So over here, you accept when you don't think you need to. And I'm not saying accept unacceptable behavior. This is more internal. Like over here, when you could accept it and you know very well you could, but you choose not to because let's just push it. You do that acceptance here and you're gathering momentum, gathering momentum, gathering momentum, gathering momentum. So now you have a large bank account worth of acceptance that you will draw from to accept that your grandma died and don't drink. So acceptance is the key to all your problems today. Acceptance, the opposite of denial. Work on it and you'll know you're working on it. It's not something that comes out of nowhere. Know that you're working on it. Identify it. And move through it and benefit from it. Now, if you're right there in front of me, I would tell you, I have a very unfair question for you. And the unfair question goes like this. What are you in denial of? Yeah, I told you it was unfair. What are you in denial of? Now, obviously, if someone says you're in denial, the first answer is, no, I'm not. Oh, really? You're not in denial. Please show me that you're not in denial by denying. By all means, tell me you're not angry very angrily. Be angry about me saying that you're angry, and that will convince me that you are not angry. The only fair-minded response to someone presenting you with you're in denial is, how so? How so is a real wonderful phrase. How so? I ask my clients, they'll say, I'm angry. I'll say, how so? Well, someone hurt me in my past. How so? Well, they just they did something wrong. Well, how so? Well, they did something that for example, such as, let's get more specific. Let's get so specific no one else could say it because it's so specific to you. Not my friend hurt me. No, My friend Brian hurt me by taking $5 out of my wallet. It happened last Tuesday. No one else could say that but you. Sounds pretty specific to me, and specifics and details lead into acceptance. So, how so? What are you in denial of? And you're probably saying, well, dude, if I'm in denial, how the hell do I know? Well, that's why it's an unfair question. But unfair questions aren't necessarily worthless questions. So, what I would like for you to do is, if you do have a therapist or a counselor, because you're by yourself, or if you happen to be listening to this lecture and you're with a group of people, or you have a group of people later on that are able to support you in answering this question, I want you to present to them what you believe you're in denial of. And as you're describing this denial, you will possibly be getting into acceptance around it. And that will be some practice. Thank you so very much for visiting me for this last 40 minutes and 55 seconds. My name is Paxton Dickerson. You can find me on www.mechanicsofrecovery.com. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. And this has been The Low Counsel. I'm going to see if I can post this long old thing to YouTube, and hopefully it goes through. See you guys soon. Peace and hair grease. Or maybe just peace.